Okay, this second example is the same thing. We have the 4/4 and the 5/4 going, and this is actually, once the band kicks in, this is actually what we call the pre-verse, the first pre-verse. And we kick in, and I'm doing more of a heavy open hi-hat sort of feel between the 4 and the 5, and the snare is falling on the 3 of each measure, the 4 and the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the feel here. So here's example number 2. Okay, this third example is actually the first verse of Surrounded. And once again, it's the same feel, the 4/4 and the 5/4 alternating back and forth. But I'm doing more of a closed hi-hat sort of thing, and the snare is actually falling on the 3 on the measure of 4 and on the 4 on the measure of 5. So here's what I did. Okay, this next example is actually what is the second pre-verse, which was the second example I showed earlier. And it's actually played almost the same way, except whereas I had the snare placed on all the 3s before, now I have it on the 3 of the measure of 4 and then on the 2 on the measure of 5. So here it is. And this last example is the second verse. And what I did here was give the whole thing an upbeat sort of feel. And I'm actually playing the snare on the 2 and the 4 of the bar of 4, and then the 3 and the 5 on the bar of 5. So if you were to actually listen to it, starting from the bar of 5, it sounds like a constant snare, like a steady 2/4 thing. But the first bar of the first note of the bar of 5 sort of displaces the whole thing. So it's kind of interesting. Here it is. Now I'm going to show an example of how you can make something that could be very simple, very interesting, and it all comes down to interesting phrasing. So this is from Take the Time, and the third verse of the song. The band had a progression that I very easily could have just played a straight 2/4 beat, and essentially I do with my kick and snare. But I really embellished it with the toms and the cymbals and stuff. So I'm going to break it down to 2 sections. The first section is more of like a jungle beat sort of thing with the toms. And I'm going to play that for you now, slow and then up to speed. And the kick and snare is just going doom to ga, doom to ga, doom to ga. And everything else is doing weird syncopated busy things. So here's where I turn something that could have been a straight 2/4 into something a little bit busier and a little bit more interesting. It starts with just the kick and snare doing this.